Hi everybody, welcome to StashBlaster Quilts. My name is Maria and I'm here to help you make more quilts in less time with less stress. So today is being kind of a crazy day here. Of course, I have a lot of those. If this is not your first time, you know that already. But I'm hoping you can hear me. We've had some issues with the sound on this. I have new camera and it's kind of wonky. And in the background, my fan on my computer is being a little loud. So I hope it's going okay. I think I have it all straightened out. If not, I apologize. And I will let me know, and I will try to have it fixed for the next time. Just so you know, if this is your first time here, I do these live streams on the first and third Wednesday of every month. But next month, next time in 2 weeks, I'm going to be out of town. I will attempt to do this from my location at that point. It won't be as long, it won't involve sewing and all of that stuff, but I'll still check in with you, assuming I can get the computer to work. I have had issues with that in the past. I've pretty much gotten this whole desktop situation filled out so that I can be here for you, but there are times when I have my laptop that I may not have a good connection, or sometimes the software doesn't want to play, so we'll have to see from there. I'm also a little splotchy today, so if you're looking at me, I apologize, especially if you're looking at me on a big screen. I've been having some skin issues, and the stuff that the doctor has given me has not been particularly effective. So I'm hoping it will get better soon. But I am a professional organizer, so I start these with a tip. Today is going to be a little different. Usually I have an organizing tip for you, either for your sewing room or something else. But I got an email earlier this week that I want to talk to you about. This person wrote to me. I'm not going to read the email. It was very long and very involved. But they basically said that they're frustrated because they can't do what I do. Not that I'm the world's best by any stretch, but they were like, I couldn't ever sew with those tiny pieces, and I never have my seam straight, and I do this and that and the other thing, and I'll never be as good as the rest of you quilters, etc. So what I want to talk about is not so much of a quilting tip as it is a life tip. When my son was younger, he tried out with a bunch of different sports, he played them, but his teammates would look at him funny because, like in baseball, if somebody on the other team got a good hit, he would cheer them on. And you're not supposed to do that in sports. You only cheer for our team. And we found that for him, bowling was a great sport because he was only competing against himself, so he could be cheering on everybody and telling them they had had a good game or a good match or whatever. His team looked a little weird at him sometimes, but it wasn't as unacceptable as it can be in regular team sports. And that's when I learned the lesson that the only person I need to compete against is myself. So, when I was in high school, I wanted to be a professional speaker. I wanted to basically be the Tony Robbins of the day. And I did not want to teach children. I wanted to teach adults. In order to go to college, my mom insisted that I have a teaching degree. So I have a degree. One of my degrees is in business and distributive education, because I wanted to teach something practical, and business and distributive education includes things like teaching how to write a check and balance a checkbook and create budgets and things like that. During my student teaching, my very last semester, I learned that no, I didn't want to teach even high school kids. They were not for me. And then I went and I did a whole bunch of other things, but didn't actually put in the practice to become the professional speaker I wanted to be. Now, I am now. I've put in tons of practice, but I didn't start young enough and I didn't work hard enough at it to make that my main career. I have my organizing company. I've written books, but I haven't written the books that make you money. I haven't written a how to lose 50 pounds overnight, or seven ways to become filthy rich in a week, or a famous book like Think and Grow Rich. Okay, those books everybody's heard of. Well, that last one, the other two I just made up, but that last one people have heard about, and sounds foo. Judy, you wrote sounds foo. I hope that's fine. Anyway, I am not a famous speaker. I am not a famous author. I am not a famous quilter. If I put a whole lot more time, energy, and effort into any one of those things, could I become more famous? Sure. In my industry, am I, and the associations I belong to, am I well known? Yes. Thank you. But I'll never be an international quilting star, partially because I'm not going to spend the hours and hours and hundreds of hours that it would take for me to get perfect and to be known for something like that. I'm known as a quilter for having fun with what I do, producing a lot in a short period of time, and just trying to be social about it. I'm not naturally an extrovert. I'm an introvert 100% of the way, which is one of the reasons quilting appeals to me. But again, in order to become a better quilter, an actual, quilting through the fabric sandwich, I would have to spend a ton more time than I have right now. And I'm not willing to give up the business that feeds my family to work on my quilting skills, and that's a perfectly valid thing to do. I'm also not willing to give up my quilting and speaking and all that to build up my organizing business better, faster, stronger, Superman. There has to be a balance. And the only one I'm competing against is myself. So what I ask myself is, am I a better quilter than I was 5 years ago? Definitely. Does that make me perfect? No, not even close. Okay? What it does is I'm setting a standard against myself, and I may never be anybody talks about, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Now, there is a tricky part to that, though, because I have arthritis. I have bad thumbs. You guys have heard about my thumbs the last few months because I really racked them up, and they're being very slow to heal. So my handwork is all out that I used to do. I'll get back to it sooner or later. They are healing, they're just being super slow about it. But as we age and our bodies deteriorate, maybe you don't quilt as well as you did 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. And that can be hard to take. However, you're only competing against yourself, and you have to compete keeping in mind your physical, mental, and emotional situation as well. So, if I was not living in this house, let's say I had to move to an assisted living where I only had one room, this fabric would be gone. I would not have the same supplies and ability to quilt like I do. I do a lot of charity quilting, and the quilting part of it, bare bones, bare bones. But I can plow through some fabric when I have time. And it makes a huge difference. But if I don't have the fabric, I won't be able to do as much charity work as I do. It's a difference. It's a change. It's an age-related and situational change. So you have to take that into account as well. But I hate it when I see people at like a quilt show or in a class who get frustrated because the person next to them is sewing faster, sewing better. It's so easy for them and I'm struggling. Don't let that happen to you. And I know it's easier to say than to do. But some kinds of quilting come easy to one person and another one it might not. Paper piecing, for example. Some people, they take to it like nothing, It's super easy for them. They can fly through it. They get the concepts. They have the mechanics. They've got it down in no time flat. And they love to do it. Other people, their brain just doesn't work the same way, so it's not as easy to understand. It's harder to take that concept and turn it into a finished product. And that finished product may not be as good looking. And they feel bad about it, and they shouldn't. Because maybe applique's their thing, and the paper piece, or if they're holding a hand needle, you'll see blood in no time. You know? So it's finding the things you enjoy doing, that you want to get better at, and working at it. So please, the person that wrote me the letter, I'm not going to say who it was. I hope you're doing better. But please only judge you against yourself and your situation. And understand, quilting, even in the past, if you look at really old quilts, they're not perfect. They're not even close. I was looking at a quilt in a museum where it was sewn together, but barely. And the lines were all crooked, and the stitches were all different sizes, and the quilting stitches themselves were all different sizes, and they'd cut corners off, and you could tell they just slapped a patch on the top. If they can do it then, and it be okay enough to be in a museum, it's okay if yours isn't perfect either. The question is, did you enjoy doing it? Did the people you give it to, if you're giving it away, appreciate it? And it could just be that they appreciate it because it's warm. You know, you can take quilts that you don't like, that you think came out horribly and you don't want anybody to know you sewed it, and give it to charity, and someone will love it because it will keep them warm. May not be the prettiest thing, but they'll be glad to have it. So, my tip for this session is just take it easy on yourself. You're only competing against yourself, and only if you want to compete. You don't have to. Every quilt can be its own adventure, not compared against anything else you've ever done. That's fine too. So please do not get upset that you don't do what I do. I've got a bit of crazy going on in my head, which is one reason why I work with such teeny tiny little pieces. And those of you who know me know that that's true. When I did a quilt with 4-inch size squares, they looked at me and said, "This has got to be driving you crazy. Those are ginormous pieces for you." Yeah, it drove me a little bit nuts. I did a quilt that used 12-inch squares, and like, I was shaking because that is too long a seam for me to sew. Those are too big of a piece for me. I'm not comfortable in that size, which is one reason I took the class. So I was stretching. I knew I was going to have some issues with it. I like it when I can control very simply and very easily what I'm doing. But there were people in that class having the best time with these giant pieces because they finished a king-size quilt in an afternoon. Great! Congratulations! Ah, not for me! So that's all I wanted to say about that. I will get off that particular soapbox now, other than the fact that thank you so much for writing to me. I don't have my address up right now because it's on the design board in the hallway. I was processing fabric over the last 3 weeks, and that's why my design wall is down. That's the bulk of what I did. So I have washed, dried, ironed, and folded a whole bunch of fabric. So let me show you here. I did all of this, plus these, and 3 times this amount in addition to this. This is just what was left in the laundry basket here that I brought up today. So I processed a lot of fabric, and I put a lot of it up on the wall. I have a whole lot more to go. But I am spending some time every week specifically working on getting caught up on processing fabric, putting things away, reorganizing things. I am planning end of September. I'm going to start working on sewing room part 2, and that's going to, because it's screaming traffic cone orange right now. It was my son's bedroom. So I am going to have to put at least 4 coats of Quilts. I know this because he used to be in the bedroom on the other side of this wall. And when he moved out, I switched him with the guest room. So he'd get a bigger room when he was getting older. When he became a teenager, he went from the little bitty room to a pretty decent sized room. And I don't have guests that often, so I flipped the 2 rooms. But in order to paint that room dark green, the same, I don't know if you can see the dark green on my walls. Actually, over here. If you look right there underneath that shelf, you can see a really dark green. That's the color the walls are here. They're kind of this mossy, dark mossy color. And it took 4 coats of Quilts before the orange didn't show through the dark green. It is that strong an orange. So I'm trying to put the things in that room onto rolling carts so I can push everything to one side of the room, put down drop cloths, paint it. I'm going to make that a light blue. And in fact, I may at some point repaint this room too. This mossy green is nice, but in the winter it can get a little depressing because it's dark. And I think I want a little bit more light. So I also did the ceiling in the same green. So I think I'll do the ceiling in white here, which is a little more traditional anyway. But it'll take at least 4 coats of the Quilts to cover most of the orange, and then I'm hoping that the light blue with a couple of coats will be enough. But so I'll move the stuff over. I'll have it on wheels, which will be nice. And then I'll be able to install the new shelving, take the stuff off the wheeled carts, put it on the shelving, put the stuff that's not on the wheeled carts onto the wheeled carts, roll everything to the other side of the room, and then go ahead and paint that half. I want to wait till October because I want to be able to open the windows. And I'm gone a good chunk of September. So for me, that'll make life a lot easier if I can just take everything and move it and move it all back. So that's going to be another big project, but I'm working on that. I have a new office assistant. My other office assistant for my organizing business got promoted to office manager. She now has her own assistant who is gung-ho on this whole social media and website stuff that I've always hated. And so she's claiming a big chunk of my time to work on the website and do social media things and give her approvals for things. So I'm spending a bunch of time doing that every week. And then I'm also getting prepped to do a whole lot of traveling coming up later this month and next month. So I'm a little run thin right now, but that's okay. That's okay. So by processing the fabric, I feel like I'm working on getting the house better because I have a huge stash to go through to get processed and then put on the walls. However, it's not as intense as some of the other things that I need to do. So it's a kind of a mindless thing to be able to do the ironing. So I do that at night in front of the TV because I can use the iron because it's not pulling on my thumb this way. So like pinching hurts and pulling hurts. But if I just rest my hand on the iron, I can leave my thumb in a neutral position and run it around. It looks kind of like I'm taking it on a road trip, but I can do that ironing. I can use my other hand as well. I'm pretty decent ironing left. Well, I'm doing it in circles here, like I do that with my iron. I can iron this way. I can't press left-handed because pressing does not involve the moving. It's the straight up and down, and I'm better if I space things with my left hand and then press with my right. I have better control. It keeps me from burning my hands. But I can certainly iron. So that's where a lot of my work is going to be. That does mean that the houses are going to be slower. However, I do have them all cut out through the mid-July date. I have updated the spreadsheet through the end of the month through till August 1st. So at some point I may cut out those extra houses, but I do want to get a chunk of them done. I do have a small stack here that I was just finishing the bodies of when our time ran out. No, our time didn't run out. The time ran out before I switched this over to actually being live instead of the introductory stuff. So I still have these to press, but then I'll have like 9 more houses done. I am falling behind. I've only gotten the 9 houses bodies done in the 3 weeks, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. Because of everything else that's been going on, I think that that's fine. And again, I'm only competing against myself, so the only one I can disappoint is myself. And I started this knowing that if I needed to, I could do 0 work until February when I had all the data collected. And I'm, much further ahead than that, so I'm okay with that. I will be sewing some more roofs today. I know it's not as interesting as sewing the house bodies, but that can get confusing when you don't know what I'm doing. I've been told that by some of you that watch. But also it's harder for me to track, and when I've done that live like this, it hasn't been uncommon for 2 houses with similar colors to have the 2 halves sewn to the opposite one. So then I have to pick it out and do it again later. So the houses are super easy. And if I make a mistake so that it's a parallelogram instead of a trapezoid, it's 1, 1.25 inch length seam to pick out. It's not a big deal. Anywho, so I am getting ahead. It's just not as fast as the days are going by, but that's okay. I'm going to have some more time later. My organizing company tends to slow down before Thanksgiving, unless it's a situation like where the county's involved or it's an estate. It starts to slow down because a lot of people don't want to get their house messy, even if it's just from one closet that we're doing, when there's all of the holiday season because of people coming over. And if it's a longer term project, they definitely don't want to do that from like the 2nd week in February, sometimes November, sometimes it's even as early as Halloween, especially if they like to decorate for Halloween, might even be into September. But it starts to slow down because fewer and fewer people want to be having their stuff gone through during that season. So I should be able to get a bunch of more sewing done at that time, and that'll be a lot of fun. And then, of course, next February we've got Quilt Camp again, and so I'll be able to do a whole bunch there. And it'll be getting... The wedding was on the February 15th, because her birthday's the 13th, then there was Valentine's Day, and then there was their wedding. So Quilt Camp is that week of Valentine's Day. So I can be cranking out a whole lot of those, but I'll know all but the last few days. So I can just sew and sew and sew and sew and sew and sew and sew. And that puts me, a nice good chunk ahead. So I'll be very happy about that. I'm hoping at that point that I will have gotten the whole layout done, and we'll be able to start placing all of the houses in place, and may have already done some of that. I'm going to be putting it on newsprint, and so I'm going to use Post-its at first because they'll be easier to move around, and then I'll start pinning the houses into the right places. I am debating. I was going to do each of the streets to be a month, basically, with maybe some offshoots and things, but basically 1 street per month. And then I was going to start in February and go all the way around back to February again. But that means 1/2 of the quilt is going to be it's going to have a lot of gray and black because that's the under 32 degrees, and then the other end will have a lot of the hot colors because that's going to be summertime. And I'm debating if I want to either do February through July and then August through February, so that we'll have hot here and hot here, so it'll be more diagonally adjacent. Or if I want to do the streets by month, and so maybe have some black and gray here, and then some down here, and then some over here, and with some hot ones in between. So it would still have each street would be a month, and the street might branch or something, but still be the 1 month. But that means that the months would be out of order around the quilt, but the colors would be more balanced. Or do I want to, keep it February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February? Haven't decided on that yet. If any of you have an opinion, feel free to voice it. You can put it in the chat. You can do a comment. You can send me an email. The email, if this is your first time or you don't remember it, is mail, M-A-I-L, at StashBlasterQuilts.com. So if you shoot me an email there and let me know your opinion, I'd love to hear it. But it's a challenge, because one of the things I dislike about a lot of temperature quilts, especially the ones that are full blocks right next to each other, is you wind up with this one massive chunk of the same color. And usually it's the same fabric. And so I'm trying to think, do I want to do that? Where it would be the top and the bottom? Or do I want to intersperse it? I already have more variety than your average temperature quilt, because I'm doing it by color family, not specific fabrics. But I haven't decided yet. So the layout is giving me a little bit of pause. But that's okay. I have until February to figure this out. I actually have until after February to figure this out. But if I can do it sooner than later, I would prefer to. Anyway, that's what's going on with the wedding quilt. The kids are out of town. They're going to, not yet, but they will be this coming week. And so my daughter-in-law's sister is going to come over. We're going to play some games. And I'm roping her into the secret of the quilt and getting some help from her in some of the designs. Because as I told you, I'm planning on putting some Pokemon on. But I'm thinking what I might do on the borders, because the top border is going to be the pillow tuck, and then there'll be the drops on the 3 sides. I'm going to make them all the same size, so if they ever, wanted to hang this instead, they could. So I'm thinking about quilting all Pokemon on those borders, but I want them to be Pokemon that they like. I can get the pictures off the websites, and I can find pictures of all the various ones, but I only know 1 or 2 that she really likes, and Jonathan really only likes 1. But I need to get some other names, and so I'm going to rope in there in my daughter-in-law's sister and get her to help me by giving me some of that data. So I'm sending her in as a spy, and we'll see how that goes. But I think the more I do this, surprisingly, the more I'm doing this, the more fun I'm having doing this. It tends to be, for me, with so many small pieces and so much repetition. Now, thankfully, it's not the same fabric. Again, if it was the same fabric, I'd be going crazy. But it's still this little 1-inch seam, this little 1-inch seam, this little 1-inch seam, and I'm doing a whole bunch of them. Then I do another whole bunch of them. And I do another whole bunch of them. I'm actually less bored with this than I thought I was going to be. I thought that doing the houses was going to be the boring bit, and then getting all the placement done, that's going to be aggravating, but should be interesting. And then doing all the embroidery would be interesting. But I'm still having fun making the little houses. Now, I've only made about 50 out of 365, 6, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm quite happy to be this far in and not have succumbed to that. And the fact that I have almost half of them already cut out as well, that helps too. So I'm very happy with how it's going. But it is one of those things where I'm going to be at it for quite a while. So you guys are going to get to watch a lot of houses happen. I'm trying to figure out how to set it up so I can do the bodies and talk and still not have to unpick a lot of stuff. But, life is what it is. So that's what's going on with that. So I did mention, so in 2 weeks, I'm going to be trying to do this from the road. If you don't see me, know that I've tried, and it'll be the 2 weeks after that I'll be back. And then I'll be gone the one after that, and then I'll be back. So it is possible that the third Wednesday of both this month and next month, that you're not going to see me. But other than that, I'm here. First and third Wednesday, 7 o'clock every month. And I'm hoping to get the website up and going, and then I can tell you what's going on. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how things are. Other than this face thing, I've been doing all the stuff I'm supposed to be doing, going to the doctors and having them do tests on things. They always want more tests, so I'll be going back and doing some more tests. But Scott is doing well. If this is your first time here, Scott's my husband. But all of his chemo and follow-ups from his cancer treatments and stuff, they're all coming in good, so I'm happy about that. I am planning some major trips. I'm going to be going, major for me. I'm doing a short little hop to Kansas City, and then in September, I'm flying from here to Washington State, to Richmond, and then going to Atlanta, and then coming back. So that's going to be the second Wednesday in September that I may miss, because I'm going to be doing all of that stuff. And my husband will be here holding down the fort. My office manager and assistant are still going to be here, but I'm going to be flying and going and doing quite a bit, but that's okay. If you happen to know, I have one day in Bellevue, Washington, where I'm not speaking. It's a 3-day conference, and I'm speaking day 1 and day 3. So if you happen to know of any good restore, fabric, what are they called? Shoot. It's a place where you can donate crafting supplies. It's not your regular thrift store. But I know there's a place called Remainders in California. There's places like that where they get in, fabrics that are not necessarily in perfect shape, like a misprint, that kind of stuff, and they sell them dirt cheap. I would love to have a chance to go and check out some of those. I have a list that I can go to, but if you happen to know of one, or if you know of a really good quilt store there, I'd love to have a chance to go and visit in that day I have in between. I'm going to be by myself, so I can do whatever I want. And I don't have to stay at the conference because I don't have a table. It was not worth hauling all of my junk to have a table at the conference this year. Next year it's going to be either Central U.S. or Eastern. I'll drive to that conference. But this year I was just like, I'm not hauling all of that to Washington State. So at that point it's like, okay, fine. And so we've got that all taken care of. But that means I have a whole day. I can take the classes, and I will if I don't find something else I want to do. But if I find something else, I can just disappear. So that'll be kind of fun. And then if there's someplace in Atlanta that's a don't miss, let me know on that one too. But overall, we should be having a good time. I'm looking forward to things slowing down a little bit. I have my book to finish. I'd like to do that by the end of the year as well. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I'm already more than a year behind. I was planning on getting it done in 23, but then Scott got his cancer. That was pretty much all of 23, and then this last, he was still in recovery in 24, so I'm still doing like some of his chores. I'm still doing them. And then this year has been insane business-wise, so I'm hoping that I can get it out, get it done written by the end of this year, so that we can go through all the rest of the processes that are necessary when you're making a book. You have to format it for Amazon. You have to do all kinds of other stuff. I know that the cover's already designed, because it goes along the same theme as the others, so we've gotten that done. But there's still a lot to do. So I have 6 more chapters to write. But once they're done, that'll be a giant check mark off my list. And then I told Scott when it was done, I was not writing any more books about hoarding for at least 3 years. And 3 years. I don't know why I had 4 fingers up. 3 years. And those will probably only be edits to the books that I've already written. So like updated editions. Because I've covered pretty much everybody I think I need to cover. So they all have their own things, and that'll be good. But yeah, I can start writing some other stuff. I've been asked by some people to do kind of a Professional Organizer's Tales from the Dark Side kind of book. I want to do some training manuals. I want to expand the mentorships that I'm doing so I can help new organizers get started on a good foot. So one of the books that I want to write is going to be basically, okay, so you want to be a professional organizer, what do you need to know, kind of a book. That's not the title, I promise you that's not the title. But I think I'm going to write that one and give it away for free. And I'm going to include like all kinds of handouts for phone intake forms and initial assessment forms and those kinds of things, so that that new organizer doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. And so when I sell the book I'm writing now, I can give them a link to that book, and they'll get that for free with the purchase of the other book as well. So and the nice thing about that too is that I can continuously update and change those forms as we get new ideas and new suggestions and those kinds of things, so that it can be kind of more of a living document. So that's going to be a little bit different, because it's not going to be as heavy as when I'm writing about people with hoarding disorder and dealing with people with other mental health diagnoses and those kinds of things. So that'll be good. I'll be able to maybe write some scripts and put out actual edited content for you guys, but it all has to wait on the book. So that's my goal, is to finish writing it by the end of the month, end of the year. But if I don't hit that goal, I'm okay if it takes until January or February, just because of everything else going on. But overall, I'm making the strides every day to set aside some time to work on these other projects, so that they're continuing to gain ground, even if I'm not finishing them. You know, it's easier to start a task. It's harder to start a task than to keep doing it. So I'm trying to make sure I'm starting every day. I'm doing something every day, which moves me that one baby step closer to finishing that project. And there's house stuff, there's business stuff, there's personal stuff. So they all get a baby step every day. Some days it's barely a baby step, but I did at least that much. And if I spend that time every day, and it's only 15 minutes, each one of these is 15 minutes. If I spend that 15 minutes and don't have anything left in my gas tank, I'm good. I can stop guilt-free, and I can move on, even if moving on just means going and taking a nap, because I desperately need those too. I'm not getting the sleep I should be getting. So whatever it is, I can be guilt-free. I have made some progress. And I am improving all of my skills that tiny little bit every day, and it adds up. 15 minutes a day is more than an hour and a half of improving your skills or making strides forward on a project. That, would you have set aside an hour and a half to do it on a day? Maybe, maybe not. If you tell somebody something's going to take an hour and a half to 2 hours to do, a lot of times they don't even start it, because they don't have that chunk of time. But if you say 15 minutes, most of us can find 15 minutes in our day. In my case, it's 45 because it's the 3 different categories, but I can still find it. it's that big chunk that's hard to set aside. And if I'm having a bad day, if my hands are hurting, I might be able to do something for 15 minutes, but not an hour and a half. I don't want to not do anything because I don't have that big chunk of time. So that's something I'm doing. Okay, that is not getting any sewing done though, is it? I did get my 15 minutes in. I actually got in a half an hour earlier while I was waiting for this to get started. So what I'm going to do is take this red thread out, because I've been sewing red houses. I should actually press these so you can see them. Why don't I do that? I'm just going to finish winding this bobbin back up. And yes, I use bobbins in the top of my machine as well as in the bobbin case. Alright, let me get my iron reheating. So the last time you saw houses, I had been doing the pink ones. I showed you the pink ones that I had done. Now we're looking into the darker reds. Again, I tried to pick ones that would all work with the same thread color, just to make my life a little bit easier in terms of thread changes. That was one advantage to cutting out a whole bunch of these at once. It meant that I could avoid some of those changes. And I do have a few extras pretty much in every color grouping, because I know that the cooler temperatures are going to be coming back around for the other half of the year. And so getting a few extras done is going to save me having to do them in the future. So even if I'm not up to date, I'm kind of both behind and ahead at the same time, which is kind of weird. Okay. I'm assuming you don't really want to watch me press these, but I think some of these came out pretty cute. So this one has a little pink door. I do have some with white doors like this. The white doors are going to be the ones where I'm marking and doing the embroidery for birthdays or anniversaries or things like that. So I need to have some white in several of the colors. So for example, my in-laws, so my daughter-in-law's parents, excuse me, were also married in the summer. And so they're likely to have warm colors as well. Warm. Let me explain. I'm doing the houses in temperature categories. So if we get any days 100 degrees and above, that's going to be a white house. I'm hoping to not have any of those. So far, our highest temperature was 97. The feels like temperature for that day was 112, but the actual temperatures are what I'm doing here. So it was 97, which means it's a yellow house. So anything 90 to 99 is yellow, 80 to 89 is orange, and 70 to 79 is red or pink. Excuse me. So I'm still doing 70 to 79s when I'm doing these houses. And then I've got green and purple and blue and all of that for further temperatures. So I do have the cold temperatures, the cold colors for the cold temperatures, but that isn't why I picked those colors. I picked them, the reason that I did was because my son's favorite color is orange and his bride's favorite color is pink. So by having those in the 70s and 80s, I was thinking I was likely to have more of those because it's on our bell curve. It's at the top of the bell curve for the summer temperatures. And so, surprisingly, we had some 80-degree days in March and April, but most of the orange and pinks are going to be most of the houses. So I wanted to have them, the largest number of those. And so far, that has been the case. But again, the wedding started, the wedding was in February, so I didn't count the January numbers yet. So, yeah we'll see. But yeah, so when I mean warmer colors, I just meant the colors for the warmer temperatures on that. So I hope that makes sense. But I'm really enjoying these, and so I'm either putting a complementary color on. So for example, This one that I just pressed, it has a green door on a red house, because red and green are complementary colors. And so a yellow door on a purple house and vice versa, that kind of thing. Or I've tried to pick a door that has the house color in the pattern, if it's a patterned door. Or I'll pick one that's either analogous or just a lighter shade or darker shade of that one. So here's a pink door on a red house. Except, of course, for the white ones. So it's been kind of fun to try to find these matches, because I have a whole drawer of 1 by 1.5 inch bricks, which are, thankfully, exactly what I need for the doors. So those were already pre-cut, which is nice. So I could just go in and find, the little ones, little pieces that I wanted. So I'm just getting these pressed. When we're done today, I'll take these downstairs and I will trim them. These will get trimmed to 2 inches tall by 2.5 inch wide, because they'll finish at 2 inches square after the roofs are on. But until then, because the roofs are 1 by 2.5 raw, I'm going to be a half an inch short overall. So 2 by 2.5. But I'll do that downstairs. But I'm just pressing them now so I can show them to you a little bit better. I did have somebody say to me, why don't you just make all the doors brown, because that's how most people have their doors. And that's true, but not in my town. My town, everybody loves having funny doors. So, for example, this door, it's a light tan, but it has a flower pattern on it. So, why have it be boring? And just, wood colors. So, that's what I'm doing. Now, I don't know how many white doors I need. There will be probably extras, and that's okay. It doesn't hurt to have extra white doors. But I will wait until I've placed these into the final design before I put the house numbers on, because I'm going to move them around to try to get a balance between the light pinks and the medium tones and the darks, and so I don't want to have like a whole section of pink houses. I want them mixed and matched, and so until I know what I need and where they're going to go. Plus, there are a couple of repeats, and I didn't realize that till I was sewing them. So, one that I'm pressing right now has a repeat. So, let me find the other one. Come on, where are you? I just noticed it today, so it goes to show. Here we go. So, I showed you this one with the green door. And here's one with the pink door. But the house color is the same red check. So, opposite sides of the quilt. Worst comes to worst, if I wind up with a couple of extras, I'll take the duplicates and I'll put one on the back side. That's fine. It doesn't hurt if I make a few extras. And when it gets towards the end, I'll probably will. Because I'm going to be like, I don't really like how that looks. And I'll make another one or two. I know me. That's how it's going to be. Alright, I'm pressing my last one. So let's see how many I did over the last couple of days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, that's a nice round number. So 10 new red houses. So 10 more days in the 70s are done. Well, not done. They need to be trimmed. And then later on they're going to need their roofs. But that's another nice thing too, is that I'll be able to pick roofs that are the correct color family. Could be blue or purple or who knows. And put it on a house that it's going to look good on. So that's going to be another option. There are going to be some times when they're in the same color family. So maybe the low for the day is 70 and the high for the day is 78. I'll have to come up with a way to have it look good. But we'll work on it and we'll see how it goes. But 10 houses. Excuse me. Okay, so now I'm going to get out my bobbin here, because when I'm doing roofs, those are all green, using a green that matches the grass color, which makes it a whole lot more brainless, which is nice. I'm not carrying my sewing machine on my trip. Okay, I'm not flying with a sewing machine, so that's why the next one, if I can make it work, is going to be much shorter. I'm just going to kind of update you on where we stood when I left. You know, what I got done here. Excuse me. And then I'll sign off early, because I won't have that much to talk about. But I don't want you forgotten, so there you go. Okay, so let me get that bobbin up. I'm just threading my machine now. I'm gonna have to get this thing cleaned again sometime soon. Put a lot of mileage on it since I cleaned it last time. I will, usually when I change a bobbin, I'm not going to do it right now, but because I only sewed a few houses since I changed the bobbin last time. I will usually take my small paintbrush. I have a couple of them that I use, and I will, in the bobbin case, just swoop around and get up anything loose that's really easy to get. So I'll do that right now. But a full cleaning, I have a professional do. Honestly, I've considered doing it myself, but I would rather have the pro take it apart, check the timing, do all of that stuff, so I don't have any last minute problems because I bumped something or did something stupid. It's just a thing for me. I did have somebody ask me how often to get your machine clean, and I said just like your car, every 3,000 miles. But that is, of course, completely invalid. We're not going to wait 3,000 miles and try to calculate how much we've sewn. Your machine will actually have a recommendation in its manual how often it should be cleaned and oiled. I personally try to do, on this workhorse of a machine, I'll do it a couple of times a year. You know, if I've had a year where I've done a whole lot more sewing, I've done it as often as every month. There was a period of time when I was sewing every day for my mental health, basically, as a stress reliever. And I sewed, I think I sewed 1,200 quilts in under 9 months. I was really cranking them out. I basically emptied this entire wall behind. Here, I'll show you the whole wall, for those of you who haven't seen it before. I emptied a wall this size full of fabric, plus all the stuff I'd pre-cut, which is another half of a wall behind you. And I went through 9, no, more than that. I don't remember how many rolls of batting, because I could not stand the way things were going at the time in my life. So in order to keep my sanity and to keep from killing other people, not literally, but wanting to, I did a lot of sewing. And at that point, my machine, I alternated between 3 machines, and I would have one in the shop, and then another one I would be taking to the shop when I picked up the first one, and then the third one that I was using and had already had set up so that it was ready to go. So I had 3 machines just in constant rotation, so every month there was a machine in the shop. And that worked out really well for me. I have several machines. You don't need to do that. You don't need several machines. It usually takes about a week to get a machine cleaned unless you have a service. When I lived in Buffalo, there was a guy who would come to your house and do it right there, which was really nice. If you don't have something like that where you are, it usually takes under a week to get a machine cleaned, tuned, everything, and ready for you to pick back up. So that's a great time, even if you still want to do quilting stuff, to be cutting things out, to be cleaning your sewing room if you've let it go to piles, that kind of stuff. It's a great time to do that kind of stuff during that week, and then you're ready to hit the ground running with a clean sewing room, everything put away, ready to go, your project's cut out, and you can just hit the ground running. So get it cleaned. If you want to do your own servicing and you know how, that's even better, but most of us don't know how to check the timing and all of that kind of stuff. But those of you who do, you have my amazement. I don't have the patience for that. So I run, 20 minutes away, drop off one machine, pick up another machine or whatever, and I keep going. All right. It's only 5 of at this point. I am set up with my machine in terms of the bobbin and the top thread are now green for doing roofs, and so I probably won't be doing any tonight at this point. I'll probably be waiting until the first, it'll be the first Wednesday of October. In between, I don't think I'm going to get much sewing done. It's most likely going to just be processing more fabric. I have so much right now that needs to be done. It's going to take me a long time. And unfortunately, I still have the cough. You can hear it. That's why I've been drinking so much. Sadly, not alcoholic. It's Diet Coke. But it's over a year and a half I've had the cough from COVID when I had it a year and a half ago. Plus. So I'm done. I really wish this was over. But it is what it is, when this, hopefully it will go away. They said 18 months to 2 years before it's going to go away, and I'm going through all of it, it looks like. Looks like it's going to be the 2 years, and I'm hoping it's done by the end of the 2 years, because this is nuts. However, if this is your first time here, again, welcome. If you're one of my long-suffering followers, and this is your 100th time here, welcome. If you had a good time listening to me, meander in the non-quilting sense, please go ahead, like, subscribe, do all of that kind of stuff, hit the bell. I do start the taping about 15 minutes in advance, so you have time to get settled and ready to go. And I have had several of you who wrote to me and saying that you like having that warning. Because a lot of times when people start a live stream, you get like a minute at most, and that does not give you a chance to visit the restroom, grab a snack, get yourself some soda or something to drink. And so this way you can watch the weirdness that belongs here. And liking and subscribing does help the channel. So if you don't mind, I would appreciate that. But other than that, I will see you in either 2 or 4 weeks, depending on whether or not I can get that laptop to work and do the live stream. Fingers crossed that we can get this done. But either way, if I'm not here at 7 o'clock in 2 weeks, give it about 5 minutes, but if I'm still not here, you'll know that I've given it my very best but can't make it work. And you'll just see me the first Wednesday of next month, okay? I hope you all health, safety, and fun. Have a good time. Don't stress. Quilting is supposed to be fun. And I will see you either in 2 or 4 weeks. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.